Hello, good evening and welcome to round one of the 2021 Sam Pearce Motorsport COVID-19 Clio Cup. As we are into lockdown 3, the runners and riders are back once again for our own entertainment and literally tens of followers. And let's see how we get on. Pole position is Graham the Beast. There seems to be an issue there with glitching already. Graham out at the front, Alex Neville glitching around at the front there in the yellow and black car. Graham seems to have got off to a good start as well. He's hit Alex there, pushed him wide, and up the inside goes our defending champion Matt, and there are a few problems down the back as well. As we come down the hill, it's a familiar scene. He's kept his nose clean and he's got down into the first section there. It's Matt leading out the front from Crowham's Scott Thompson. In third place, Alex Neville, who had a good season, and Sam Pearce in fourth place. In fifth is Dave of the North. And Alex is having a little look up the inside, but no, he doesn't go through on this occasion. As they head two abreast up the hill into the right-hander. It looks like, once again, this is going to be a very close year with Sam Pearce closing in on the background a little bit there. So Matt's got some competition. Alex moving to the right-hand side, up the inside. Is he going to try and make a move on Scott Harper-Thompson? Into the braking zone for the chicane, and they come out in exactly the same order, but very, very close. So if this is the way that things are going to go, it could be a very exciting season ahead. As we move down into Redgate, turn 1 now. So Scott having a little look on the outside. Matt's moved back into P3. Alex has gone up the inside into P1, and there's a cut back there, and yet again Matt comes up the inside. So they're going to go three abreast down into Craners. Alex goes wide, loses it a little bit on the grass, and Sam Pearce moves up into second place with a fantastic move there on Scott Thompson. So Sam Pearce, who didn't have the best of luck in the previous series, now into Pier 2. And it's very, very close. So Sam in P3, being pressured by Alex in P4. A little on board here with Sam Pearce. And yet again, the drivers this year are forced to have the cockpit view. So Sam sitting in P3 with Scott Thompson just in front of him, and defending champion Matt Parr out in front. So Sam losing a little bit of ground there, which has enabled Alex in P4 behind him to catch up. As we see them come very closely here. Is Alex going to make a move up to the inside? It'll be interesting to see whether or not he does. And he's hard on the brakes and he's lost it a little bit. Sam holds that position by going around the outside. Good clean racing from the two there. Difference of Sam being on a wheel and Alex being on a controller as well. As you can see him seesawing away there at his wheel. That's because he's on a controller rather than on a wheel. And Scott Thompson there sideways up the inside, and Matt in P1. Has he managed to make that move stick? No, he hasn't. He's lost a little bit of momentum, which has enabled Sam to come back and have another go at him as well. So that's an interesting move as they come back up the hill into the right-hander. It is Matt Parr in P1, Sam Pearce back into P2, Scott Thompson in P3, and Alex Neville in P4. Very close at the front, and hopefully this is a sign of what the rest of the season will hold for everyone. As they come down the long straight, is Scott Thompson going to make a move on Sam Pearce by going up the inside? He's braking late, That's a very clean move, very nicely done there, and Alex has given him a little nudge there, Sam behind as well. So a great move by into P2 there by Scott Thompson, but this messing around just behind has enabled Matt to get away at the front just a little bit. So our front four have created a bit of a gap back down to Graham Crowhurst in the Monster Deliveries Hamilton car. Behind him is Ed the student. I'd be interested to see whether or not all of the fact that he hasn't done any lectures at all, but that's probably no different for a student, as benefiting him. Behind him, Dave of the North. And then in the blue, white and red car is Club Racing UK's Rob Lewis. He of podcast fame, who's been doing a fantastic job of that all through the summer, and hopefully we'll get on to a little bit more about what everyone else is doing. But Rob's making a good effort. In P9 is Nick, Night Sky Watcher, in your screen. Nick's moving backwards and forwards between controller and wheel. I think he's preferring the controller. Johnny T makes a comeback. Another year older. We didn't think that was possible, but Johnny T has put down his cup of tea and his digestive biscuit, or is it a rich tea? I'm not so sure what his preference is. He's taken off his smoking jacket and put down his pipe, and once again he's back out. Here we have Tom Starkey down in P11, who unfortunately didn't have a great start, and Rob the Bear in P12. And down in P13 is Paul Harvey, which fun enough is me. How's that happened? Who knows? But actually I'm on a controller because my wheel's broken. I'm not really a controller expert by any stretch of the imagination, but if you don't race you don't get points. So let's get back up the front and have a look, because there's still only 1 second between our key people. So it's Matt Parr still out in front. Didn't get much track time this season at all in real life. In P2, Scott Thompson, who did really well in his Clio in Track Day Championship, with some podium finishes with his partner Ben Johansson. And Sam Pearce, although he really should have the initials rather than PEA, should have JRD up there. Johnny Racing Driver was christened as he moved from behind the tools and into the cockpit behind the wheel, and managed to smash the rest of the field in Track Day Trophy and Track Day Championship to get 2 wins in his first 2 races. Alex Neville in P4 in the white, red and yellow car. Alex raced in the Mini Championship last year, appearing on TV on the undercard of some of the touring car events. Anyone who watched that knows how just exciting that was. And Graham Crowhurst didn't manage to defend his title this year in the BMW Championship, but did soldier on and managed to finish in P2 in the championship, and even committed to racing it this very circuit in December, which was rather foolhardy because it was cold and wet, but he did it anyway. And Ed managed to keep the car on the ground for the first time. He's got through 3 or 4 laps, in fact lap 6 without him being airborne, so maybe he's taking this seriously. But he is a podium finisher in the Club Racing UK Xbox online lobby, and he's got a magnificent trophy on the back of that. Rob Lewis is making his way up through the field resolutely, 7 seconds off the lead, but it's still pretty close out front. It's Matt, closely followed by Scott Thompson in the blue car, and Sam Pearce hanging on in there in 3rd place. So just 3, and he's gone wide. As we say it, he's gone wide, which has enabled a couple of people to come through behind him. So Graham's come up into P3, Alex Neville into P4. So Graham's made great progress through the field as he comes into the final chicane and across to start another lap. This is a 15-minute race, so we are expecting around about 12-13 laps based on lap times potentially. The field is just spreading out, but what we do know is that these Clios are incredibly competitive and very easy to make mistakes with. So Matt's just got a little bit of daylight out the front. Graham is making progress through the field. He has raced recently, comparatively recently compared to everyone else here, because as we went into lockdown he just managed to get his racing in December. So he is familiar with this circuit. It's unusual for him to drive in the dry this year. Most of his races appear to be in the wet and the cold. Alex Neville closely following him, and there's a little bit of a group now forming up behind Sam. So Sam's dropped back from P3 after going wide. He is sliding around, as we see Ed there very much sliding and losing some time as he comes up the hill and turns right, and that's enabled Rob Lewis to get very close to Ed. And he's made the move on Ed, and he's managed to make it stick. So great driving from Rob Lewis, who after some early issues has managed to come right from the back of the field up into P6, and is now chasing down our series host Sam Pearce in the silver and red car immediately in front of him, with Ed behind, and he's just gapping him a little bit there. So Rob making great progress up through the field. Does seem to have good turning there, and it does seem to be making all the difference having moved house, that he's gone on to BT Fibre. He's the only person that I know who moved house just because he needed better internet broadband speed for his racing championships. Nicely done through there. He does seem to be holding some great lines and actually being really good on the power. Very, very smooth, not losing any time, which is absolutely critical in these Clios. If you do slide them, they will lose speed. Sam out in front, maybe a little bit more ragged as we move a little bit closer up the field, and we see that Alex is getting very close to the back of Scott's car now as well. So action still throughout the field, just a little bit spread out, but there still is the opportunity for anything to happen, and we are really looking forward to what this series has for us this year. So Sam Pearce now being tracked down by Rob Lewis. And Rob making great progress through the field as they come through the chicane and across the start-finish line. It'll be very interesting to see where he's going to take his opportunity. As he comes up to Redgate, Sam takes a defensive line on the inside. Is Rob going to make it stick round the outside? Sam's very, very late on the brakes and he's gone wide. Yeah, he's outbraked himself there, and that's enabled Rob to take that move up. And actually it's hurt Sam a little bit because he's dropped down into P7. So nice move there by Rob. Unfortunately Sam braking a little bit late, sending it wide. Very difficult for that tight inside line. So Rob's really now got Alex Neville in front of him to track down to see whether or not he can actually get into those podium positions. You can see it, it's just up in front of him. It would be an amazing job to see him do that from where he was. Very tight corner there. Cars are prone to running wide and ending out on the grass, so good piece of driving. Another tight right-hander, and he's nicely on the power, which is really critical to getting a good run down the long straight. So great driving from Rob, giving us a demonstration of how to do a quick lap. 1:16.7 being his quickest, and at this moment in time he is the quickest person to put a lap in. But he did have some difficulties at the start. If he continues in this way, he will be making his way up through the field in no time at all. So really good to see Rob doing excellently there. You see Matt just extending his lead now out to 1.7 seconds. And this is a familiar sight from last year. He's very, very consistent. We know that he makes very few mistakes. And the challenge is really, if you are the cars that's chasing him, as you can see Scott is chasing behind him now, you really have to push, and if you push you can make mistakes, and if you make mistakes you can actually go further backwards. So it's all about relaxing, trying to do the best that you can, and over the period of the race get an opportunity to claw back that time bit by bit, and hopefully one of your competitors makes a mistake. But we know that Matt's pretty solid, and that's going to be difficult. The same with Alex, who's been incredibly consistent in the last series. And we've now got Ed tracking down Rob Lewis. So is Ed on the charge as well? So Rob and Ed, if they can help each other out, they may well drag themselves back up into contention for podium. They're 5 seconds off the lead at the moment, which is nothing really. That's just a couple of mistakes from the guys out in front, and they may well be able to claw their way back if they work as a team. However, Ed's not known for his teamwork, and I'm not sure that Rob likes the fact that Ed's behind. And that's very, very close there. So you can see Ed good on the brakes on the way into Redgate, very clean on the way out. As they come down to Craners, it's going to be very interesting. He's flashing his lights to see if he can distract him, a well-known tactic in this series. Rob is an old seasoned campaigner, he won't be falling for any of that nonsense, but he has gone a little bit slidey into the right-hander. Ed a little bit more tidy, so Ed gets the better drive out up the hill. It's a very difficult place to overtake here, so there's not really a lot of opportunity if Rob holds his line, and he will be tight into the right-hander. Not really an overtaking opportunity here either, although Ed is just taking bits and pieces out of him, just yard by yard, very close. So if Ed gets a good drive up the hill, he's taking it a bit tight, and maybe that's going to cost him. Yes, it has. He's just dropped back a tiny bit as Rob gets a better run out, but there is the draft down the straight, so it'll be interesting to see, can Ed in the purple and white car get up close behind Rob and maybe stick a move on him up the inside. No, he seems to be too far back. So yes, by compromising himself a couple of corners before the long straight, he has managed to just fall back and give Rob that breathing space that he needed. But while this is going on, that's bringing some other people back behind as well, as Alex has gone down into P5. So we didn't see it, but there must have been an incident somewhere. So Rob is up into P2 and Ed is now in P3. And who's tracking them down while they're messing around? It's the beast of Brands, who's at Donington this time. It's Graham Crowhurst who's picking up the pace. And Matt is well off out in front now. So really this is where the key action is. And we'll have a little look down through the field and see what else is going on. So Scott, having dropped down into P6, has got Alex just up in front of him. And about a second behind is Sam Pearce as well. So Scott and Alex, who was showing early pace early on, and now just down in this midfield, sort of the upper end of the midfield. I don't know if they're out of the race altogether, but they're also trying very hard. Sam Pearce comes up the hill. He's got a little bit of daylight in front and behind him. And then a little bit further down, it's actually quite tight here between Dave of the North and Nick McLeod. And Nick losing a little bit of momentum there. Dave in the white and blue car, Nick in the yellow and green car, Patronus green I think we can call that for the purposes of this series. Everyone retains their liveries from last year and sponsors, although we do announce that Tom Starkey has gone back to the Greenstar team this year to partner up with Rob the Bear. However, they will be in different cars. Tom will be in a Civic and Rob will be in his traditional Fiesta, as they probably go into Track Day Trophy and Track Day Championship this year coming. So just spreading out a little bit. Ed is still pushing hard behind Graham's. Graham's moved up into P3. Ed's alongside him. That's not a place that you want to be because he has been known to take you out as they come up the hill. This is really close racing and fair for a change as well. So Ed's obviously learnt his lessons from last series. If he comes up the inside, he's going to make that move stick. And yes, great move by Ed on Graham. But you know what Graham's like. He's not going to give up there. And I'm sure he's going to come back. As they come down the straight, Graham just clipping the apex just a fraction better, and in doing so managing to get better drive down the straight, but he couldn't make it stick as they come out of there. You can see the difference there. Ed with great traction out of the hairpin. I think Graham just clipped a curb, and as a result of that it's allowed just Ed to get a couple of comfortable car lengths ahead. And these are the fine details that make the biggest difference between managing to get that pass to stick and not. But Graham's a seasoned professional. He's been around there, lots of experience in racing, so I'm sure he's going to be patient and he's going to come back and find out where he's more quick than Ed, as Ed just slides the car into the right hander of the old hairpin. As we come up the hill now, these three broadly on a similar pace. Rob 6.2 seconds behind Matt out in front, so it'd be difficult to claw all of that back, unless you can just see as he went off up into the distance there into the final right hander, unless Matt makes a mistake. But we know that Graham's getting closer to Ed. Ed's braking a little bit later there, and this time he's got much better traction through the two right handers and hasn't managed to lose that place. As they come down the straight now, will the draft take effect? Graham is known to be really strong on the brakes, but Ed's pretty good as well, and they brake pretty much at the same time. But Graham's got a better drive on the way through the chicane, and as he comes out the other side, you can see there, because Ed had to go defensive, it compromises line, and that is a move that Graham has managed to make stick very, very well. But Ed's coming back at him up on the inside now into Redgate, where he is traditionally quite strong. But is Graham going to get the momentum there from the more traditional racing line? He cuts back to the inside. Ed covers it off quite nicely. The natural line to take round there is they're going to go nose to tail down through Craner Curves, which is always an exciting place. Are they going to make this work? Is the beast going to beast the student? As Ed just loses a little bit there, but no, he's managed to keep going. He's slid the rear end round very nicely. But Graham's not giving up. And he's having a little look round the outside, but no, he's not going to manage to make that work. They come nose to tail. Who's going to get the better drive around here? So Graham's got a good line there, and Ed has lost a little bit of momentum because his tight line into that first part of the right hander has pushed him wide, which has enabled Graham to get right up alongside. Now they do seem to have similar braking capability coming into this chicane, so it could be all about that. As once again, Ed's on the inside, which is going to compromise his line, which may well give. And there's a contact there, a little bit of contact, probably inevitable, as Graham just carried a bit more momentum. but it wasn't enough to give them get the position, and we go back round again. So these two are really going to be at it. Just a little bit further back we have Alex and Scott, and Alex is putting a move on Scott into Redgate, braking. Is he going to manage to hold his line? Yes, nice move there. Scott's trying the cut back as they also are going to come down the hill side by side. No, Alex has just neatly tucked in front. So close racing throughout the race, throughout the grid here, as we have Johnny T and Big Tom Starkey. Big Tom Starkey, the Ginger Wrecking Ball in the black, white and red car, and Johnny T in the blue car, as Tom goes round the outside and really cuts across aggressively there. Gentleman Johnny, he won't be having any of that, but he does just blend out the throttle, and he knows the reputation of the Ginger Wrecking Ball is fairly immense, so you do have to be careful when he's in your vicinity. And he's managed to make it stick, and they continue to go through. Matt there now just coming across for the last lap, as Paul Harvey on the controller lets him pass quite neatly up on two wheels. Spectacular way to finish. He likes showboating for the crowd. Matt crosses the line to take his first win of the series and the inaugural win. And as we run through here, we have Rob in P2, so a great drive from Rob, coming all the way from the back of the field after the incident at the first lap into P2. Ed with penalties coming up into P3, so a nice podium for Ed. Graham P4. This is a difficult track with penalties which can impact on the race result. Scott in P5. Alex in P6. Sam in P7. Dave of the North in P8. Nick in P9. Johnny T in P10. Big Tom Starkey in P11, who's finishing his lap in the gravel. Paul Harvey on controller in P12, picking up some points. And Rob the Bear bringing up the field in P13. So we're off and running for the first time in this series. We look forward to welcoming you back next time. And they're away, and it's going to be very cluttered as they go up into Redgate for the very first time. All of the cars are all off together. And let's see what happens as Ed hits the back of Scott, which has caused a problem there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. So it's fair to say that Ed caused that accident at T1, which put Rob all the way at the back of the field.